As your safety officer, I want to thank everybody for taking time out of your busy schedule to come out. The board of the Soaring Club of Houston thanks you for coming out. As your safety officer, unfortunately, I wish it was cloudy and rainy outside, not having been briefed by our weather expert, Ken Sorensen, that there's 5,000 plus lift today. Bad form, Sorensen, bad form. Short meeting. The pressure is on. So
really safe in a hurry.
So exactly.
Motion to adjourn?
So now, okay. All right. The Soaring Club of Houston Board of Directors, we thank you for coming. Take time out for this safety meeting. We want to establish and maintain, what's the goal? Safety culture here at the Soaring Club of Houston. And of course, you do, safety is one of those things like any other human endeavor that you get good at it and then you have lapses, and you get good and you have lapses. So once we get our solo and our private, is that good enough for us to not do anything and then fly maybe 24 months later? No. We want to be recurrent. We want to keep things fresh. So the safety meeting is one way to do that. It gives us the opportunity to review safe operation procedures as a glider club and us individually. This is our opportunity to not only hear from the Soaring Safety Foundation, and we have Tom Johnson here, who's always has a great presentation and a lot of great information. And the Soaring Safety Foundation, the reason I like them is because they're continuously updating safety, going over the data, going over where safety is needed, and I think that's really good for a club and for us individually. So they have the trends and successes of maintaining a safety culture. But just as important, this is an opportunity for all of us here. And by the way, we're recording this meeting, and hopefully people will be able to watch it on our YouTube channel. So, that's a little segue. Has everybody in here subscribed to @SCOH 1975?
Yes.
Yes.
Good, because we need 50 subscribers to be able to live stream. So that's our goal. But all of us should contribute to the discussion we have here today. So these safety meetings, the great benefit is that we have all of us together and we can ask questions and participate in the discussion. So we highly encourage it. I mean, Tom's going to tell you the same thing. He can sit up here and talk for a couple hours, and but some of the great insights that we get is from folks that contribute to the conversation. So ask questions, participate in the discussion. If you have questions, if you have concerns, bring them up. If you don't feel comfortable bringing them up in a this setting, bring them up to me. Bring them up to one of our officers. Bring them up to one of the board members. Bring it up to an instructor. The idea is we can't fix stuff if we don't know about it. So, and that goes for every person in this club. Who's been here less than a year? Okay. Tell us your name.
Russ Roberts.
Russ has been here less than a year. Russ, if you see something that you don't understand or you have a concern about, we need you, people, and everybody else to bring that up to somebody. So we can, my example of pointing you out is that it comes from everybody, okay? To the folks that are, And you know what? If you don't get a good answer or a good response from whoever you're talking to, talk to somebody else.
I have a question about something.
Bring it up to somebody else. Bring it up until your question or concern is taken care of. The foos. That's the other one. The goal is to be safe as a club and safe individually. The Soaring Club of Houston board has talked about safety, on a recurrent basis, and one of their recommendations is that you fly with an instructor once a year. The regulations require that what? What do you have to do review-wise? What does 2 mean?
Every 2 years.
Every 24 calendar months. That's what the FAA says. You must have a flight review. What the board thinks and what is good safety practice is to have a safe flight review once a year. And that safe flight review can qualify as your 24 calendar month flight review. So, everybody kind of thinks like this. Man, I got to get this thing done, I got to get this thing done before I start flying. Yeah, that's the way it goes. And so get with an instructor, get with some folks, try to review safety procedures, and we'll talk about that. Okay, let me see here. Yeah, I want to.
Yes.
Who's familiar with this?
It's posted out there on the outside.
It is. Everybody know about this?
Yes.
Okay. You basically add up your hours in the last 12 months and your launches in the last 12 months, and you have this line that crosses, and wherever that crosses, if you're one of these guys that, you fly 30 hours in the last 12 months and have 30 launches, you're going to be green and so forth. But I just wanted to, talk about using a barometer. Add up your hours and launches for the last 12 months. Put the figures on the barometer. Where the line drawn between them crosses the white line, read the appropriate advice for box color. Experience. What is your experience? Your total hours and launches represents experience, but your currency is just as important, maybe more so. Currency. If you intend flying and have flown fewer than 3 takeoffs and landings in the previous 90 days, you're advised to have a check flight. We can't carry passengers for the regs unless we've done 3 takeoffs and landings. But we can kind of not do our 3 takeoffs and landings, and then what do? It's a good idea to measure yourself and are you safe to fly every time you go out. Weather. If it's windy, if there's a crosswind, you hadn't done it. Maybe you don't need a safety flight, but maybe you need to talk to some folks. Hey, let's review crosswind takeoff techniques. Let's talk about that. And then over here it talks about, what is your status? I like this one. Green status. Your status is good, but take care. I like that. Some of these things are when contributing factors. They talk about contributing factors and they add up. It's like you do fine if the weather's fine. You do fine if you've flown a bunch in a particular glider. But let's say you change a glider. Let's say you're flying out when the wind is a little different. These things add up. Let's say you're not feeling 100%. You got a cold. Something didn't set well with you the night before, and you got an upset stomach. Those are all distractions, and they kind of are part of that chain made up of links. New airfield, new glider. Okay. So anyways, we got it up here, we got it outside. check yourself every time you come out. Every time you're thinking about flying. Every time you schedule something. Think about, am I ready? Am I safe? Okay. Tom Johnson is here. He's going to talk to us. We got some coffee in the back. We'll probably take a break here and there for a restroom. We'll let you guys decide. I know you're anxious to get flying, many of you, so we'll get through that. We brought fixins for sandwiches after the meeting, and I'll remind you guys, but we need to put the chairs up and rearrange the furniture and get the food stuff out, and so we want to leave the place the same as we had it. So then after Tom gets done, he's going to talk about collision avoidance, and then Glenn and I are going to talk about our little our midair that we had, and so hopefully two things. One, everybody will stop asking questions about it. And two, we'll all learn something from it. Okay, so without further ado, Tom Johnson.
Well, thank you very much, Kevin. It's good to be back here again. I'm starting to come here so much. Glenn wanted to know where my dues payment were for the club. So anyway, it's good to be here. Again, you know who I am. I'm retired from UPS. Used to fly big airplanes, flying boxes around. I used to fly in the Navy in the A6. That's me in the CH Tyrol there. I fly in the pits, and I got a Ventus so I can scare myself. Last time I was here was, what, 110 degrees or something like that? Yeah, and I landed out, and there was no wind. It was a lot of fun. Okay? One thing I want to caution you is that I'm going to get up on my soapbox for a couple times here. Understanding full well that it's 5,000-foot lift out there, you're all anxious to be here, and the last thing you want to do is listen to some guy in a Christmas tie talk safety to you. So just be aware of that. And one of the other things is the Swedes. They went 7 years, didn't have a fatality. They had a fatality, they went 7 more years, didn't have a fatality. And they said, you know, we're doing so well, we don't need to have our foot on the safety pedal anymore. So what happened?
They had a fatality.
They had a fatality. So they got off it, so they said, we need to stay back on this thing. So that's hopefully what Kevin is trying to do and what you guys are doing, which is a good start. I'm in your way, aren't I?
Not at all, no.
Okay.
I was just
Okay,
enjoying the
so again, you guys have seen this slide. You know, aviation safety is all about identifying the risk and finding mitigation strategies. You're all aware of that. You've seen it before. And hopefully, which mouse gets the cheese? The second one. Not in this case. He's smart. Okay? So we have to have a plan. We always have a plan. We're going to do a little safety overview. We're going to talk about some of the latest safety thinking that's coming out of OSTIV, kiting and tow plane updates, and then we're going to talk about collision avoidance. So I really want to know what you guys think. I know what I think. I think I know what you think, but I want you to tell me, okay? Because you can tell me everything if you've ever read that book. It's kind of a neat book. Anyway, it's a story of private investigation. Good late night thriller. Okay? So this is a Soaring Club of Houston. We're going to talk about some safety numbers. You guys seemed to like that last time. You have to have the data. And you have to have data, and you have to know what you can do with it. So what do statistics mean?
It's the probability of something happening.
Okay. I'm a Navy guy, so it might be the science of analyzing raw data to make conclusions about information, right? If I ask a question, the answer is usually up there. Okay? So 44% of all marriages end in divorce. What does that mean?
Prenups.
66%.
What's that?
Strategy.
Everybody didn't do their homework up front.
Okay, that means 56% of marriages end in death. Okay, so you have to be able to look at it from both perspectives. All right? That one takes a while to set in. Okay, so this one of these committees that I belong to, the General Aviation Joint Safety Committee, puts out this Pareto chart every year. And you can see this one is from 2000 to 2023. Pick a year, pick a time frame, it looks exactly the same. Loss of control, which is the big one where people have stalled and spun in, that's the one that's killing all the people. And then the other one is unknown because that's the NTSB doing that. Then system component failure, power plant, that's where people are having engine trouble and they're crashing. Okay? People fly experimental airplanes in here?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, do you think all that neat experimental stuff is really good? You know, like all that stuff the EAA is pushing? You ever wonder why the FAA is very reticent to implement all that? See the red bar there? That's experimental aircraft. Experimental aircraft make up 5% of all airplanes. How many accidents, what percentage of the accidents do you think they make up?
20.
Yeah, 23%. They have a 4.5 time rate to certified aircraft. So if you wonder why the FAA, sir.
Well, mine is experimental only because it makes it a lot easier. I could get it registered standard airworthiness. I think all of us could.
I understand all that. It makes it easier to make changes.
Right. But does that goes into that statistic up there.
Yes, it does.
Okay.
But that's what we're dealing with here, okay? And that's the Pareto chart, and you can add all that up.
I think so.
What's that?
Well, the vast majority of that data, those powered airplanes.
This is for everything.
I know, but I'm
Yeah.
just saying gliders would be a small one.
Gliders are a very small part of that, okay? So we started looking at where the accidents are. Where are all the accidents happening?
Mostly in landing.
Mostly in landing, yeah. You can see it up there, 62%, okay? The red is free flight. That's the little itty bitty one. That's people out there on course. So where are most of the fatalities happening? Well, you can read it if they're in the unknown region, okay? The PT3, which is a launch accidents, that's about 1/5, 21%. The landings are 27%. This is over the last 6 years. The landing is 7%. The free flight is 27%, and the unknown is 46%. Where do you think most of the unknowns fall into? In the free flight category, because if the gear's down, the aircraft is configured, and the spoilers are out, they're probably what?
Landing.
Landing. If they're on tow or they're on a winch, they're probably launching. So yeah, so most of those unknowns are going to fall into the free flight category, okay? Yeah, and you can see, if you wonder why the Soaring Safety Foundation is pushing on this, God forbid I mention the word hard deck, people out there thermally low altitude, that's where people are killing themselves these days. When I started this 15 years ago, people were killing themselves on the turn to final. We really examined what was going on. We said, we've been teaching this wrong. I know that you guys are teaching it the way we want to. That's being driven down. I don't know if we're affecting it or not, but it is. 2 years ago, we started to realize that people were killing themselves on launch failures, where the rope goes away. What's the first thing you do? What's that?
Release.
Bap, bap. What's the first thing you do if you have a launch failure?
Lower the nose. Oh.
Lower the nose, restart. But you would be amazed how many people go, oh, I've had a launch failure. I have to pull the release twice while the aircraft is getting slower and slower. Okay?
It'll fly just fine with the rope.
It will fine just, I can tell you from personal experience, it will fly just fine. You can land with the rope. And I can also tell you that you have to go in the cornfield across the road to try and find the rope, and that's very difficult. Okay? So we started looking at that, and you'll see that we're having some results with that. Hopefully it's for what we're doing. I don't know. But right now, people are killing themselves out on course by spinning in. That's where it's happening. Okay? And one thing, again, on my soapbox, if somebody starts to tell about a low save, get your bottle of water out, spray them, and say, no, we don't want to hear that. It's socially unacceptable. Okay? I don't want to hear it. I don't want to read about it in the magazine. So, we got a new guy there, right? If he hears one of the old hands here talking about their low save, what does that communicate to him?
It's good to do.
It's good to do. We don't want to do that. So always carry a bottle of water out. If you ever see me with one, now you know why. Okay? So the fatal accident causes, you can see those over the last 20 years. Stalls are the big one, loss of control. It looks little, but that's because the FAA changed the category of loss of control and stalls. They're now lumped together. Okay, you can see that's where we're killing everybody. Okay, the accidents. Last year was a good year. It was down. We only had 10 accidents last year. You can see that the number of the 5-year average, the yellow bar, is pretty consistent at 35, and we're going to talk about that in a little bit. And you can see that our 5-year average is slowly coming down, but we're still about 20 a year. But that's down, which is good. Okay, so what about our fatalities? What's going on with that?
It's down way.
Last year we only killed one person. Yay! Okay. Our long-term, ever since we started taking the data 40 some years ago, is 6 people a year. So hopefully we're moving in the right direction. The FAA, tell them to sell.
Little side button, put it on vibrate.
Sorry about that.
No. What you do with your vibrating toys is your business, not mine. So, but that's what we want, that's what we're looking at. We're looking at those numbers, and we'll talk about those in a second. So that gets us into the idea, where do we focus? Do we focus on reducing the number of accidents, or do we focus on reducing the fatalities?
Yes.
Yes.
Both.
You reduce the accidents, you're gonna reduce the fatal accidents.
Yeah. Okay. So you can see, where was the most accidents?
Launch.
Not launch.
No,
Landing.
fly.
Landing.
Landing was the most accident.
Landing's the most accident. How many people did we kill in landing last couple years?
Not as many as free flight.
Not as many as free flight. I can get another glider. I can't get another you. I would much rather have you around to tell your story of swapping paint and all that than going to a memorial service and all that. So we think that we should put our focus on the accidents. Tony?
Has anybody ever seen Sailplane and Gliding magazine? Because they publish every single accident in there. Even if nobody's hurt or the glider's not damaged, they publish it all.
Yep.
I think it's really good.
It is good stuff, yes. More information you know, the better, okay? And so that's why we're talking about the low-altitude maneuvering. And we are really, really, really pushing the fact that, again, with the cat smoking in the bottle of water, somebody starts to talk about that, shut it down. Tell them it's not acceptable. Okay? So the glider accident category here, this is last year, 10 accidents. Notice anything about this chart? A lot of yellow, that's landing.
It's got tiny print.
It's got tiny print, that's because you're old. Okay, what else?
There's no premature termination of
There's no
program.
PT3 accident, yes. Okay? Last year we didn't have any PT3 accidents. Remember last year and the year before I told you that we're killing 1 of 4 people in this community on planned PT3 events? We didn't have any last year. I don't know if it's what we're doing or what. What's that?
Did you say planned?
Yes. 1 in 4 people in this community are killed on a planned PT3 event.
Why don't you say what PT3 is?
Oh, I'm sorry. PT3 is a premature termination of the tow. That's Dean Carswell. You've had a launch failure on the winch, on the tow, and what's the first thing you do?
Lower the nose.
Lower the nose, sir.
You say plan, is this like a training PT3, is that what you're talking about?
Yes, we're going to go out and we're going to pull the rope at 250 feet and we're going to come back to the field. Or the examiner says, I'm going to surprise him and pull the rope at 200 feet. So it's someone involved in the evolution that said, I'm going to intentionally pull the release on the learner or the candidate at a low altitude.
So that could be double-edged sword. You're saying, in a way, it's because you didn't have that many last year? That means nobody was practicing it?
No, people are still practicing it.
Are you encouraging not to practice it?
What we're encouraging is that you need to practice that because it may happen to you, but train in a way you're going to say, all right, we're going to go out there and at 250 feet, I'm going to pull the release on you. What's the first thing you do?
Put the nose down.
Put the nose down. Then what do you do?
Turn.
Maybe. Okay. See,
You would hope you're not at a point where he pulls it and you have to go straight.
But the point is that you walk through every step of the decision-making process so that the first time you see it, it's not a surprise. I brief you very thoroughly on what we're going to go do, and I pull the release on you. Are you going to make the same mistakes, different mistakes, as if I had just pulled it on surprise on you?
I would have thought about it at that point in time. So
You would have thought about it, but my experience is that you make the same exact mistakes as if I had pulled the release on you as a surprise. And you turn it into a training event the first time instead of a checking event. And you get everybody involved, you get the ground crew involved. Hey, about a minute after we launch, we're going to be coming back at you. Get the tow pilot involved. Don't be surprised when the glider gets off at 250 feet. And then brief you. The first thing we do is get the nose over. Then what do? I look at my watch and I confirm that yes, it's 9:30 in the morning. Okay? Then I access the plan that I briefed before I took off. Then I execute the plan. When I make that turn, say we launch off to the south and we bank off to the east a little way. When I start to make that turn, where should my head be looking?
North, to the right, left.
Should I look back there?
No,
Why not?
because you're turning and you're trying to see where you're going.
So I should be looking back.
Where are you gonna land?
I'm going to land back on the field. How far has the field moved?
The wind is.
I'm a Navy guy, okay? I'm used to landing on something that moves. How far has the field moved?
It hasn't.
So what should I be concentrating on?
Aircraft control.
Aircraft control. Fly the airplane. What kind of turn do you want to make?
Coordinated.
Coordinated. What angle of bank? 45 degrees. Why?
Most efficient way of turning around.
Safest and most efficient.
It's the most efficient. Okay, remember your calculus, the bottom of the curve minimizes the rate of turn, and the radius of, maximizes the rate, minimizes the radius, minimizes the loss altogether. Okay, what speed do you want to be flying?
Approach speed probably
Approach
wasn't
speed
bad.
plus half of the wing.
In sync for that bank angle.
Min sync?
For that bank angle, but
Speed is your friend.
For that bank angle.
Do you have the aircraft trim for tow?
Yes.
Yes.
How fast are you going on tow? 60 knots. Am I smarter than the aircraft? No, shake your heads no. The aircraft is much smarter than I am. If I have it trimmed for 60 and I turn, where do you think the speed's going to go to? About 60. Is that a good speed? Yeah, sure is. Okay. Once I come through the 90 and now the runway, wow, it's right where I left it. Is the emergency over at this point?
Nope.
Okay. Well, now what's the emergency?
Get on the ground.
Oh, you're gonna have a downwind landing, yeah, okay. But yeah, you break it into the steps as you go around so that you can train effectively for it. And if you don't, as instructors and as candidates and learners, if you don't break it down into that nauseating depth, that's where you're gonna start making mistakes. And what we fervently ask you is that when you say as an instructor, I want you to go to 45 degrees angle of bank, have a solid technical reason for why you do it. Not because Tom got up here and said to do it, but like he said, it maximizes the rate of turn, minimizes the radius, and is the most efficient way to get around the corner. So now you have very objective, concrete standards that you can shoot for and that you can train to. Sir?
that excess, that tow speed that you're flying helps the buffer of the wind gradient when you turn around. You're turning from a headwind to a tailwind, and that little extra gives you that buffer.
Okay. And we're going to talk about the wind gradient in a second, but when you're in the air, do you care about your ground speed when you're in that turn?
Not particularly, no.
No. Do you care about your airspeed?
Yeah.
What does the wing care about, your airspeed or your ground speed? Airspeed, okay. You've got what, 8,000 feet of runway out here? So you can...
Yeah, we wish.
Yeah, we can land the shuttle.
Yeah, you can land the shuttle here, okay? Yeah, so, you know, if you touch down right here at 60 knots, indicated 70 knots ground speed, are you going to be able to stop before the end?
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah, so don't compound your emergency by going, oh my God, I got to touch down right past the fence. Analyze it sit down, get your cup of coffee, put Walker Texas Ranger on, and analyze it in a very calm, deliberate manner, okay? So we kind of beat that to death, but the launch accidents, you can see we didn't have any last year. Cruise flight accidents, we had 4 last year. Glider impacted while thermaling, not good. Somebody had their wings, the Russian had a wings come apart in flight, pilot bailed out, and we had 2 silents. You guys are familiar with those, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so yeah, you guys can talk about that all you want, but the thing is that you guys seem to be talking about it. I know Rich said that one of you talked with him about it. So then landing accidents. Last year we had 5, which is down, way down, no fatalities. Notice that in the last 5 years, we've only had 7 fatalities out of 50 some accidents. That's way down, that's good. Okay, why that's happening, we don't know yet, but it's good. Hopefully we're trending in the right direction. So you look at these accidents. First one, dust devil. How do you know you encountered a dust devil on final?
See the dust?
Yeah, okay, I don't know. I'm concentrating on flying the airplane. I don't know. Okay. Glider stall, 126. How do you stall a 126 trying to land short? That's a skill that I don't have. Okay. That's amazing that they did that. Okay. The Blanik, yeah, flew into terrain. The Russian encountered sinking air. What do those three accidents have in common?
The ground.
Kevin?
They hit the ground.
Hit the ground. What were you talking about before?
Speed gradient.
Wind gradients.
Wind gradient.
Okay? It's not my fault that I didn't fly fast enough through the wind gradient. I hit a dust devil. That's why I crashed. Okay? I was trying to land short. That's why I crashed. And significant sinking air. That's why I crashed. All of those are very consistent. If you put wind gradient in there, that's what you get. Okay? If I want to land the glider short, do I fly a slow, shallow approach or do I fly a steep approach at normal speed?
Steep.
Why do you fly a steep approach?
Oh, you save as much energy as possible.
You're saving energy, but you're coming down really fast. So how do you stop that coming down?
Well, you go full spoilers, it's okay. You can go 80 knots.
Okay,
Spoilers out.
but the point is, I'm coming down. I'm coming real fast to the ground, and it's just me. I don't want to impact the ground really fast coming down. So how do I stop that?
Flare.
You flare, and what does that do to your speed?
It's gonna reduce your
Scrubs the speed off, okay? And now you touch down. Now you've bombed through the wind gradient. You use all that energy to get yourself slowed down. You plop down, use the brake, come to a stop. That's how you land short, okay? So that's why we're saying that they came through, and you read further in the narrative, the pilot was going, I knew I had to fly slow and shallow because I was trying to land short. Flew down through the wind gradient. What happened? The wing said, we're not going to do this anymore, and landed short, okay? So when you read through these things, if you read through these things, watching Murder, She Wrote or whatever, look for those things that's the wind gradient that's happening there. And this is from the BGA. This is their thing about the wind gradient and how you get through it. And they even have a nice little talking point that you can get to in their student pilot handbook. Talks about how the wind gradient. How do you compensate for the wind gradient?
Extra speed.
You have a little bit extra speed. What do you do when you encounter the wind gradient?
Lower the nose or close the spine.
There you go. Do that.
Yeah.
Really easy. Okay? I learned that as a student in Chicago back in the 70s. I thought everybody knew it. Then I got out doing this and found out, not everybody knows it. So that's why we bring it up and talk about it. But the BGA is a good source for all this stuff. Okay? Our one unknown accident.
Tell us what BGA is.
British Gliding Association.
The British Gliding Association,
It
mate.
says it right up there.
It says it there. When you're on one of your international trips, why don't you go over there instead of sitting around the hotel and going to the pub?
Because I'm sleeping, that's why.
Oh, poor excuse. Poor excuse. But yeah, the BGA has great resources, great graphics. They got lots of people. So the unknown cause was a glider, impacted the terrain. The last hit on the GPS trace, 77 degrees nose down, 250 feet up, 6 miles from the airport. Landing gear was up, flaps were down, spoilers were in. You make your own conclusion. But we have not had official determination what the cause was. Okay? So you can go from there. So now we've got all this great data. What do we do with it? How do we make it work? Okay? Are you guys familiar with OSTIV?
Yep.
These are some of the smartest people in the world. This is directly from their website. What's wrong with this?
Can't read it.
We can't read it. They spelled organization wrong.
Yep.
These are literally some of the smartest people in the world. They're all volunteers. They have a meteorological panel, the sailplane development panel, your fancy European gliders, the EASA Part 22, that's all OSTIV stuff. Mark Mommer and his group. Rich Carlson is head of the Safety and Training Panel. I'm on the group. I'm definitely the dumbest person in that whole room, but they're all volunteers and they set a lot of standards for the community. And one of the neat things they did was this guy, Alfred Usch, he came up with, started looking at safety and said, why are airplanes still crashing? Okay, the Moderne Flugsicherheitstraining, flight safety training. Okay, and he came up with this thing called FlyTop. And he looked at the accidents in Germany, DE, Switzerland, CH, and the Österreich, AT. Okay, and he came up with this latest safety thinking. So what do you think he concluded? Any ideas? Stump the dummy? Okay. What he concluded was that we can't learn from accidents anymore. We pretty much tapped that out. It doesn't improve safety. Okay, he said we shouldn't concentrate our work on accident analysis anymore. Oh, okay. And he also said that we need a new methodology. So he started saying the flying is usually done in clubs, like this place, right? Most of the flying takes place in club-owned ships, kind of like this place. 30 to 100 members, kind of like this place. Close surveillance of the members. Is there close surveillance, Tony?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, flight instruction is performed by non-professional instructors who are not paid. What does this sound like? It sounds like this place. Okay? So he said that there's nothing new. I got involved in soaring in 1974. Those were the issues when I got involved. Okay? It has not changed. Launch failures, spin avoidance, that's loss of control, off-field landings, failure to be standard, and human factors. And no one got the Taylor Swift joke. Okay. So Dr. Elsey's got good data. You see Germany, Austria, and Switzerland. He went back 12 years now. He found out that 1/3 of all the IGC files that are put on OLC are from those three countries, and 1/3 or 55% of all the mileage is from those three countries. So his conclusion is he's got good data to work with. Your mileage may vary, whatever you want to say, okay? And what he found out was that the risk of dying in a glider accident has not changed in the last 30 plus years. Kind of like what I said about our 6 accidents a year since ad infinitum. It hasn't changed, and that's one thing he's trying to get at. And what he found out was that we have 15 fatals in Germany for every 1,000,000 launches. Pretty close to what we are at. Okay, and if you don't fly in Switzerland, that's what that says, because they have 35 for every 1,000,000 launches. Okay, and that has remained very constant. So why has learning from accidents become ineffective? Why are we a victim of our own success? What does the sailplane development panel do? Do they build better airplanes?
Yep.
Yeah, they build better aircraft, more survivable, all that. What does that training and safety panel do? There's a theme here. They build better
Pilots.
pilots. There you go. Good. Okay. What else?
Accidents, you have less to learn from.
What's that?
When you have fewer accidents, you have less to learn from. It's difficult to.
Well, we've got plenty of action. We've got lots of data points, okay? What we found is that we could build better standard operating procedures, okay? We've learned from those accidents and said, you know, if we don't have a thorough brief before that planned launch failure event, we might have an accident. So we've improved that, okay? We've built better rules, regulations, and laws. Who here likes FAA regulations? Nod your heads, yes. Okay, so what we've done is we've effectively filtered out all these accidents out of the gene pool here. Okay, so again, we're a victim from our own success. So what happens? So what he saw was that accidents came down really well until about 2000. Then they plateaued. Okay, and this is not just in soaring, helicopter aviation, airlines, military, everybody. It all came down and then it plateaued. Okay, and so he started looking at that. You name the category, you name the class, it came down, it plateaued. Okay, so we're still figuring out ways to kill ourselves. We just haven't figured out new ways. Okay, so we're still doing that. So what are the properties of the remaining accidents? And I know I'm pressing time here. It's dominated by human factors. What does that mean?
People.
People
Fly gliders.
People, yeah. I wish that guy up there would get done because I got to get my glider together and get out there before the lift starts cooking off. Okay, things like that. You're putting pressure on yourself, okay, people? Sometimes the same type of glider or the same, you know, pilots. Do we have pilots who you look at them and go, that's amazing they haven't killed themselves?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so yeah, so you got to look at them, okay? So does your operation have peculiarities that, say, Coastal Soaring at Atmore Airport in Alabama has? Are they different operations?
Yes.
So why would I demand that what I do for safety in Atmore that you guys do here? What's that?
Different procedures.
Different procedures, different situation. Yeah, so you have to tailor your procedures to the situation. Okay? So it does not transfer from one airfield to the other. Can you take what you do here and take it 35 miles south and have it work? Not necessarily, yeah. That's the key, not necessarily, okay? Okay? And it does not necessarily transfer from one organization to another. So what do you have to do? So safety science tells us that learning from accidents is called reactive safety, and that's what Dr. Ush calls reactive safety. Okay? What he's advocating is the safety management system. Oh boy, great. Safety management system, something more for you to do. Okay? But what he's saying is you need to embed the club pilot into your culture of safety, yes. Okay? And it's operated by those who are organizing, starting at his office, and performing the flights. Who are the instructors? No instructors in here. No one's. Okay, yeah, so you folks are the instructors. You're the ones who are implementing all this. The airlines do it, and now he's trying to get the clubs in the DChat area to do it. And he's having some success. Okay? So the control of the SMS must be local. You guys have to be the ones that do it. Okay? You can't have somebody from me come up here and go, you have to do it, and pound my shoe on the table, you know, but you have to do it. So what does an SMS involve? It involves safety policies and objectives. Do you have safety policy and objectives?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, so you have that. Do you have a safety risk management? Do you have someone that goes around and go, that doesn't look right. I think we should look at that.
Yep.
Yeah.
So, what's that? Everybody should do it. Yeah, good, okay. So do you have some kind of quality control, safety assurance? I think we need to make sure the ropes are checked every 2
We
weeks.
practice that.
What's that?
We practice checking our tow ropes.
Okay, so you have some system in place
Yes.
for safety assurance. That's good. Okay, and then do you promote safety? Do you get some goofball from Pensacola to come in and talk at you for an hour and a half? Okay, so yeah, these are the 4 components there. You guys seem to be doing all that. So you have your policy, your safety resource management, and your safety assurance, and they all go together. But you start up here, you go counterclockwise, of course, because it's European. We don't go clockwise because that is not German. So, but yeah, you establish you can read it up there. You can see what all that. So what does top level commitment mean?
Come from management downward.
Come from the top down, yeah. Okay. There's a club out west, I won't say who it was, but they were very much against this because the pilots of the big guns, they wanted to go out and fly, and that safety stuff was all for everybody else. How do you think that's going to work?
It's not.
It's not going to work. No. So it has to be what's good for the president is good for Kevin.
It goes from the top down, but you have to have a two-way street, like those two-way arrows are.
Oh, so you're saying you have to have a just safety culture?
You have
Exactly.
people, everybody has to be able to bring stuff back to the top.
It's
Okay.
equivalent to stop work, right?
What's that?
It's equivalent to stop work in the.
A stop work, yeah. So what they're saying, what doctor is saying is that you have to have a just safety culture. That if it's good for me as the president, if I as the president say you need to do this, then you as the people doing it say you need to do it. The street has to go both ways, and it has to be fair. It has to be equitable. Just because I have a duodiscus, does that mean that I get treated differently than someone in a 233?
Nope.
Okay, that's the way it has to be. Because will that be perceived that there's a difference?
Yes.
And if the perception is that there's a difference, what does that mean in reality?
It's the lowest common factor.
Yeah, that means that you may perceive it as being a difference, so then that is your reality. That is now a difference, and that defeats it. So you have to, from your office, you have to work real hard to make sure that everybody gets treated the same, and that cannot be easy sometimes, you know. So, but fortunately, you got people who've been around the sport for a long time who are on board with the program here, and I think you guys can make it work. Okay, any questions about the new latest and greatest on safety thinking? No, we're pressing forward. We're getting there, Kevin. We're gonna make the time.
I will say something. You know those slides that have a ton of information on them that you haven't been able to read for 2 reasons. One, it's too small, and the other is too much. That's one of the benefits of having this recorded, that folks can go back, stop it, and look at the slide and and study this stuff. There's a lot of references that Tony has brought and other references that allow you to look at this stuff in a timely basis where you can think about it. Go ahead.
Tom can just send me the
I
file and I will distribute it.
I brought a stick and I'll put it on the stick and give it to you this afternoon before I leave. All right? And it is suitable, a lot of these are suitable for printing and framing if you want to do that. So, okay. So, kiting on tow. Has anyone ever kited on tow? What is kite? Oh, we got a volunteer back there. Yes. What happened?
Wasn't paying attention, got fast, and recovered, climbed very, very quickly.
Okay. So, yeah, that's kiting in a nutshell right there. So,
First flight, standard Cirrus, I believe.
Second flight, yes. Second flight.
Okay. So, yes, so you've been experiencing. Who is kiting the most dangerous for, the glider pilot or the tow pilot?
Tow pilot.
Tow pilot, yeah, we're going to talk about that, okay? So, we looked at the last 13 years, 29 tow plane accidents, 7 fatal, 3 involved kiting. Okay, not good. Okay, 2 serious injuries, 1 involved kiting. So, it is a serious problem in our community. You're looking about 1 every 3 years, 1 fatality every 3-4 years, and that's not good. Okay? So what happens? You're doing 75 miles an hour in the tow plane, 65 knots in the glider. This is a BGA slide, so of course the units are mixed. So what happens? Okay? So what happens? The glider starts to climb, it starts to speed up. What happens to the tow plane speed?
It starts to go down.
Why does it start to go
Because
down?
you're pulling the tail up.
Because every action has an equal and opposite.
So you only have so much energy between the two, right?
Line stretching.
The line is stretching, okay, I won't, okay. So, but now the tow plane, the glider starts to accelerate. Where does that energy to accelerate come from? The tow plane. You're starting to spin around the center of the rope. You're starting to rotate around the center of the rope. Okay? It goes on. You can see the tow plane is getting farther down because there's a lot of up force on the tail. The tow pilot's got the stick in his lap or his or her lap. Up you go. And it keeps progressing. And at some point, it just breaks.
Okay.
Sir?
Is there data on whether or not these were CG release or nose release in these kiting accidents?
I do not know that. I do not believe we've looked that closely at it. Would that make a difference?
Yeah.
I would think so.
Yeah, I think so.
you're-
CG release
Yeah.
is
easier
much
to get into a car.
more prone to that thing if you let it get away from you.
Okay.
I don't think the glider's gonna be at an angle where the CG release is gonna release by the
Well,
time.
it's not gonna release.
No,
Yeah.
I mean,
Unless
just,
you hitch up, I think.
Well, I can tell you from personal experience that a CG release directional control going slow has issues.
Yes.
I've never experienced a difference between a CG and a nose hook on tow. That's my mileage may vary, of course, but we haven't really looked into that. But the point is that you're rotating around the center of that rope. The energy for the glider has to come from somewhere, and it comes from the tow plane. And what the BGA found, this is an updated slide from the one you're going to see in a couple seconds, is that it's going to take the tow plane about 1,500 feet to recover. Okay? You think about that, you're pointed 45 degrees nose down at 50 knots. How long do you have, if you're at 1,000 feet, how long do you have before you hit the ground?
Not long.
Not long. Okay? You're coming down at 5,000 feet a minute, you're 45 degrees, you're moving 5,000 feet a minute, you're 45 degrees nose down, so you're coming down at 3,000 feet a minute. You got about 18 seconds before you impact the ground. Okay? Not very long. Okay? So this is a great resource if you want to look at it. It's a YouTuber, Pure Glide, and he has 3 seconds to crash, glider arrow towing gone wrong. And it talks about that accident up in the Northeast where the Citabria went in and they kited and the Citabria went in, the pilot got killed. It's a great resource to watch. It's only 5 minutes long. But the nice thing is, you see on the bottom there, it's got that link. That gets you inside the BGA firewall so that you can get at their content, which is really nice. And what you find is the safe arrow towing thing, which is the BGA's guide to safe arrow towing. This was made in 2012. The last side you saw was updated a couple years ago. And when they did it in 2012, they said, oh, it only takes 800 feet to recover. And then people went and tested it out and tried it out up at altitude, and they found out that, no, we're wrong. So, but that's the same thing. And they say that to go from 65 knots to direct overhead at 80 plus knots takes about 3 to 5 seconds.
Accurate.
Yep. Okay. So yeah. So what do you do if you lose sight of the tow plane?
Release.
What do you do if you lose sight of the tow plane? Let me hear that again. What do you do if you lose sight of the tow plane?
Release.
Release, yes. No questions asked. I've lost sight of the tow plane, release. Boom, get out of there. Okay? What if it happens at 100 feet?
Release.
Release. Okay? And you go back to that plan that you talked about before you took off. Okay?
Hey, Tom.
Sir?
Hey, one thing that's worth noting, I think one of the risk factors for kiting right early in the tow is if you have your trim way too far aft.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you'll be going along and the glider also goes boing.
Yep.
You know, so check the trim.
Check your configuration, yep. You're pulling out on the runway. What do you do when you pull out on the runway, Kevin? Recall, trim, flaps. Okay? Yeah, so before you take off, get in the habit pattern before you take off of checking the configuration of your aircraft. Spoilers are shut, flaps are set.
It should be
Trim.
part of the checklist.
Yeah.
It should be part of the checklist.
But the checklist says control, so make sure you know that trim is a control.
Is a control, yes. And I'm not discounting what you said, Glenn. What I'm saying is that you've done the checklist. Now, being the OCD, and OCD is wrong, it should be CDO, but being that type of person that I am, I check my trim, my flaps, and my spoilers before I start to go.
What can keep us from doing our checklist or our flow?
Distraction or we're in a hurry. We want to get to the thermal.
Distractions or we're in a hurry. If either of those things happen, there should be a little voice in your head, hair on the back of your neck, something that says, slow down, do it again. And if somebody gets mad, my mother-in-law had a great line for that. They can get glad in the same clothes they got mad in.
And again, that's that culture of safety we talked about. If they get mad, what should you do?
Ignore it.
Well, first ignore them, yes.
Shut them down.
Shut them down, say, go away.
Yes.
Go get your shine box, start tying some shoes out there. What else?
Take twice as long.
What's that?
Take twice as long.
Yeah, you can be very, passive aggressive and just say, okay, I'm going to take my time. But then get your club management involved and say, hey, I was out here, I was doing my checklist, and whoever on the line came up and said I wasn't going fast enough. What do you think of that? You know?
No.
No. Okay? So you got that. Good. Okay? So they also have on this safe aero towing thing, aero towing essentials, and it's got a lot of BGA motherhood in there. See where it says ground run? Left hand on the release. What do you think of that?
I don't like that.
You don't like that. Why don't you like that?
Because you could accidentally pull it.
Bounce.
You can tension on your arm and pull it.
Yeah.
I put my finger
Okay.
on it, so
Yeah.
I know where it is.
But that does build in a delay response.
Okay. Is there anything that where you need to release on tow immediately?
You lose sight of the airplane.
You lose sight of the tow plane. How long does it take? Does the release moved?
No.
No. Is it where you left it when you took off?
Yes.
So you should be able to reach down and pull it. How long does that take? If I look, what, a second and a half? So, you
Some
know,
of them are on a rope and they do move.
some are on a rope and they do move, okay? So that's something that you have to do ergonomically with your glider to practice that, finding it,
Yeah,
okay?
put some Velcro on the end of the rope and put it on your chute. body
Yeah,
of your
you
shirt.
can do something like that, you know, but have it where it's easily accessible. Again, my accident, I hit the lip of the road and my hand was right next to the release and the release went flying and I couldn't find it. So that's why, anyway.
And when it's 100 degrees outside and your hand's sweaty, you reach and it might slip out of your hand.
Okay, yep. So, do any of you wear gloves when you fly? Yeah,
Yeah.
you know, because I glisten, I don't sweat, but okay. So, but it's really easy to find videos on the YouTubes of people who inadvertently released because they had their hand on the release. They hit some turbulence and the next thing you know, they're in free flight. So just be careful about that. And you can read about that. There's a lot of good stuff in there. That's the only thing I really take any exception with is having your hand on the release. Okay, so again, if the glide, you lose sight of the tow plane,
Release.
released, yay. Okay, so collision avoidance. We are pressing, we're gonna meet Tony's 10:30 deadline. So the FAA, what does it say about collision avoidance?
Don't hit another glider.
Don't hit another glider, exactly. Okay. What is the purpose of the air traffic control system?
Keep them separated.
Keep what separated? Keep IFR traffic. If you look at the ATC system, the whole system is designed to keep you in your dangerous glider from running into grandma in her Southwest 737. Okay? It should be the airplane doing 250 knots is going to run into the aircraft doing 45 knots, but that's the way it's set up. Okay? This was last updated, 48 Echo. It was last updated about, what's that? I got you. Yep. This was last updated, as you can see, back in October 22. This is the third update in the last 5 years. They finally realized that the technology is outpacing their ability to publish the advisory circulars. The initial advisory circular from, I think it's 1978 or 1980, had the graphics in it were a T-33 coming at you. Anyone know what a T-33 is? We got one.
I saw one last time I flew.
Okay. Yeah, so.
But he was coming at me.
But that's the advisory circular. It goes through the FAA's whole philosophy of how to avoid running into other aircraft. Okay? So when you were getting your glider certificate, did you have to bring collision avoidance into your learning? You're nodding your head. What do you mean? Okay. Okay, instructors, when do you start teaching collision avoidance? Which flight? First flight, yes. Because during the practical portion of the flight test, or during the flight portion of the practical test, the examiner shall evaluate the applicant's use of visual scanning techniques. So it's real basic. So why is that important? Well, excuse me, we'll get to this. The Air Force, any Air Force people in here? We got a couple, okay. Scott Air Force Base just southeast of St. Louis. They're right under the approach to runway 30 at Lambert. So they came up with this thing about why mid-airs happen. So what this tells me is if I fly IFR at night in IMC conditions, my probability of having a mid-air are very low. They're saying that if you're on a pleasure flight in VFR conditions during daylight hours, who does that?
All of us.
All of us, yeah, that's when your mid-air collision is highest, okay? So, and the interesting thing is that 37% of the mid-airs have instructors on board. So, okay? So what is the instructor primarily doing when you're flying with a learner?
Talking.
Talking, what else?
Looking at the student.
Looking at the student, you're evaluating the student, what they're doing. So are you really watching for traffic?
No.
No, okay? So your eye has limitations. If it's dirty, dusty, hazy, does it get hazy around here?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Okay, do you ever get that kind of milky white background where you can't see anything?
Yeah.
What color are our gliders?
White.
White. Yeah, they're hard to see, okay? So does fatigue come into being able to see things? Sure it does, yeah. Okay, task saturation?
Absolutely. Sure.
Okay. What do I mean by constant bearing decreasing range?
The dot is not moving.
The dot is not moving. I learned about this in Navy Safety School. Midnight, these two ships, and the destroyer said, that ship is going to hit us. When's it going to hit us, they asked. Oh, sometime about 24 hours from now. And for the next 24 hours, they watched the dots just get closer and closer and closer and did nothing until they ran into each other. Okay, so it really works. Okay, but if you think you see something out there, do something. Okay, so the out of the advisory circular, it says it takes 12.5 seconds from the time you see it, recognize what it is, decide to do something, start to do something, and have the glider's momentum be changed to actually do it. 12.5 seconds. Is 12.5 seconds a long time? Yeah. Absolutely, yeah. I'm going to hook some electrodes up to your ears and we're going to turn it on for 12.5 seconds. You tell me how long that is. Okay, it is a long time. How far is that Southwest 737 going to move in that 12.5 seconds? It's at 5,000 feet, so it's doing like what, 350?
8 miles a minute.
350 below 10, right?
Okay, yes. Okay, so it's going to move about a mile at least. And if you're on a head-on course, you might be 1.5 miles. So things are going to happen real fast. Okay, do you know what the Dunning-Kruger effect is?
You feel good about falsely feeling good or something like that?
If you don't know something about anything, you don't know that you don't know something about it. Okay? And that kind of applies to
Didn't the
traffic.
Secretary of Defense use that?
What's that?
We don't know what we don't know?
I keep politics out of this. I just say, how about them Cowboys? And you're all from Houston. And so you know. Who was surprised the Cowboys lost in the playoffs again? No one. Okay. So, but you develop a cognitive bias. The farm is clear. There can't be any traffic out there, right? Oh, okay. The other pilot's going to see me. Maybe. Okay. So you're assuming that you know a lot more than you might actually know. And that's the whole Dunning-Kruger effect. You're on the mountain of stupidity. Okay. And then when you actually see the other glider out there, you fall into the valley of despair. You go, oh my gosh, where did that glider come from? Okay. So you're actually working with that. That's the air traffic control division. Okay. So to find the traffic, you have to believe that the other traffic is out there. Okay. I launch. I'm the first glider up. I'm doing instruction in the 233. How many other gliders are up there? None. So does that mean I have a collision threat?
Yep.
With who?
Somebody comes from
Somebody
People
comes
like to
from,
fly over.
people like to fly over here. Who else?
Southwest pilots.
The Southwest pilots, yes.
The tow plane. The
The tow plane, yes. Okay, so you've got all sorts of other threats out there. You have to be on your toes. Okay, so visual scanning. What's the FAA say about visual scanning?
A lot of it.
It's the, okay, you're saying you haven't read the new advisor circle, have you? Okay, what's wrong with this picture as far as visual scanning?
That's like tunnel focus. You're looking straight ahead, nothing else.
Well, you see the canopy is a little bit dirty, so everything's reflecting really nicely up on it. Can I see traffic that's behind that big white blob on the top there? You want to make sure your canopy is really clean so that you don't get these nice reflections. Okay? And then what's the pilot doing that they probably shouldn't be doing at this point? Taking a picture. What are they not doing while they're taking the picture? Scanning and flying the airplane. Okay, so the FAA says that see and avoid is the way to not hit anybody. If you're on an IFR flight plan, do you still have to see and avoid?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, good.
Do they know that?
What's that? We're going to talk about that in a second. You've looked ahead. So this is the latest. The scanning at 10 seconds, a 10-degree swath. It's, last I checked, it's 180 degrees, right? So 10 seconds and 18 sectors. How long does that take?
3 minutes.
3 minutes. So what they're saying is you look far out, close in, far out, close in, far out, close in. Go back and forth like that. That's the latest thinking on how to find stuff. Okay? And that's what they're preaching. Okay? And this is right out of the advisory circular. It's on page 12 of the advisory circular. Okay? So are there electronic aids to collision avoidance? Oh, yeah, that's Photoshop. That was actually out over the Sea of Japan. Anyway, so you've got TCAS, which the airliners have. You notice there's no TCAS in this UPS DC-8. Okay, and you've got FLARM, okay, which are a couple of good things. That's all good stuff. So how does TCAS work? What does it do?
It estimates whether you're on a collision course or not.
Yeah, it figures all that together, and then it tells those fancy airline pilots, you know, put that vertical speed in the green arc and you're going to avoid the collision that's out there. It's really good. What does it see?
Another transponder.
It sees another what type of transponder?
ADSB out, transponder.
Okay, what else? Mode C, Mode S, ADSB out. Does it see your FLARM?
No.
No. Okay, so that's a limitation of it. Do you guys ever get airliners fly over this area?
Yeah.
Okay, where are they looking when you fly over?
Not here.
Not here, okay? Okay, so you got that. So that's the system that they're using, okay? Do you know where those airliners are gonna be? What?
It's the airliner, it's the business aircraft and other aircraft that have TCAS that are actually flying over here worse than the airliners.
Okay, we're gonna talk about that in a second
It's
too.
defensive, Kevin.
Okay? Okay, so FLARM. What does FLARM do for you? What does FLARM allow you to see? Other FLARMs, what else?
ADSB.
ADSB, what else?
Transponders.
What type of transponder?
Mode C.
Mode C. Do I get a bearing and a range to another FLARM?
Yes.
Do I get a bearing and a range to an ADSB out?
Yes.
Do I get bearing and range to Mode C?
No.
No. What do I get to Mode C?
Just a distance range.
Just a distance ring. I know something's out there.
Yep.
Okay? I don't know what it is, okay?
Does
And then-
ADSB see Flarm?
No.
No. So, yeah. It is European. Why would you need to see it? It's-
On which one?
On transponder?
Yeah, mode C, you get altitude too. You get a ring and then. it should
You
give
just don't know where it's coming
Should
from.
give you an altitude, yes, I'm sorry, yes, but you don't know the bearing. Okay? I'm assuming, again, assuming that's always bad, but if something pops up, I'm assuming it's at my altitude until I am proven wrong. Okay? And then if it gets really bad, I shouldn't say bad, but if it gets where the Flarm thinks it's bad, this little symbol pops up and says, look out. Okay? The SOTEC flashers, anybody have those? Yeah, we're putting those in our gliders. They're really good. You can see those a long way away. I highly recommend that. But know how your system works. Know what it tells you. Know when it tells you. And they'll help. So I get this alert that there's a glider at 11 o'clock, 0.2 miles away. Where do I look?
On the horizon.
Start at the horizon, then where do you go?
Up above the horizon a little bit.
Okay, which way are you moving in your glider? Are you moving up or down?
Look back.
What's that?
Depends.
I say look back.
Okay.
If you're under a cloud streak, you might be moving up.
So whenever so you're in that glider, and there's another glider out here. Relative to that other glider, which way are you moving?
No, you're not.
You're not. You're both you're both in descending air. So I would personally, I start to rise and I look down and start going from there. But know what it's telling you. Know where it's to look. Okay. You get that auto oral warning that there's something out there. It beeps and flashes at you. What do?
Look around.
You look around. The proper textbook answer is I look outside for traffic. What do you actually do?
Turn right first.
I look at the instrument and go, where is it?
To the left, I'll turn right.
And then I look, okay? What do you do in the airliner, Rob, when you have a TCAS, when you have an RA or a TA?
You do what it tells you.
You do what it tells you, but the first thing you do is you look down and go, huh? What? Oh. Okay?
Does that mean is it real or not? Or what do you say?
What I'm saying is that you have to understand what the instrument is telling you and what your reaction should be. Okay? When they tell you, when ATC, if you're flying and they tell you there's traffic, glider traffic, 1 o'clock, 2 miles approaching, do you look out at 1 o'clock for the traffic or do you look down at the TCAS to confirm that it's real?
Both.
Both, okay? So you use the resources available. So,
One thing I'll do is if I can't see the traffic and I'm getting a warning, or I can see it on my Flarm, but I actually don't see it visually, is I'll maneuver.
Yeah.
Just to do something different, so that I'm not.
so to defeat the constant bearing decreasing range?
Right.
Yeah. Okay. It's like those two ships. If one of them had just turned 2 degrees either way, they wouldn't have hit each other. Okay.
Also, you said this earlier, we are very hard to see because of the color,
Mhm.
but a lot of times what I'll see first is the sparkle, the glimmer of light, because Ken just turned.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
I see like a little flash
Mhm.
of glare.
Yep.
Well, that's what, the last time I flew that T-33, he was headed right towards me. He didn't see me, and I couldn't see him because he was coming in behind me like this. So immediately I banked over like this.
Mhm.
He saw me and banked over like that.
Yeah. And so we used to put reflective tape on our club gliders because when they would turn, they would glint off the sun. You'd see the glint. You know, it's like the mirror when in search and rescue. You know, you can see the mirror for miles. So that's one thing. But press on. Flarm can see other Flarm. It can see transponders like we talked about. And what's the difference between 1090 and 978 ADSB?
Altitude.
In my Mooney, do I have 1090 or 978?
1090, bro.
978, because I don't go above 18,000. What do you have in your airliner?
1090.
1090, yeah. Okay. So there is a difference. There is a difference on the ability of the Flarm to see what the. Go ahead.
Well, if you have the more recent Flarm and you pay for the update, you can see the rebroadcast data potentially, which would include UF.
Okay. If you have that, yes. But again, it's understanding the equipment you have, the limitations you have with it, and what you're actually getting, what you're actually doing. So, okay. So So that's what the farm can see. OGN, do we got OGN here, Ken?
Yep.
Yeah, okay. So that's a good resource. You know, you can use it how you want, but that's all the things that it pulls in there. Okay, you can see drones, other airplanes, other gliders. Okay, cool. So, anybody recognize what this airspace is?
New York.
New York, okay. See this thing on the right here? The corporate pilots were required to have TCAS on their aircraft. And they started going, we're getting lots of TAs, traffic advisories, and resolution advisories around New York. What's going on? So the FAA commissioned a study about what's going on. So what they found was that their study validated the theory that high traffic, it leads to TAs and RAs. Because they've got aircraft coming into Teterboro, they've got aircraft going up the Hudson to LaGuardia, and they've got aircraft coming into Newark. So where do you think they're going to get lots of TAs and RAs? Right there. Okay. Where do you think that you are going to have mid-air collision probabilities?
Right there.
Right there, yeah. Can you translate that to 2,000 feet overhead this field?
Yes.
Yes. If I know the traffic's out there, okay? And what this did, okay, was the FAA was really, really surprised because they had very rigorous, very disciplined procedures for traffic separation, but they were still getting all these TAs and RAs, and they went, what's going on? Okay. What's that?
They're not matching the settings that they're actually experiencing.
Well, what they're finding is that, you know, the flight paths may have been different, but the software said, yeah, they might be different, but I'm going to let you know it's out there anyway. Okay? And as an airline pilot who's been up here, it was like, of course you're going to get all that stuff. But it was the corporate people who were new to it, who have got all the big, you know, for whatever reason, they went, oh my gosh, what's going on here? Okay? So what's all that mean? You ever hear Willie Sutton? He said, why does he rob banks? That's where the money is, okay? So where do you look for the traffic?
Where you suspect it.
Where you suspect it's going to be, okay? Okay, have an idea where it's going to be, okay? So how do you use farm and ADSB effectively? Again, this is an airline cockpit. Chicago tells them, hey, there's traffic out there. Where do they look? They look to the TCAS. If someone tells you there's traffic, the tow plane says, hey, you got traffic out there, look outside. Okay, use that. And I can tell you I've personally been involved in that. Okay, so how do you use traffic avoidance devices effectively? We've talked about that. You guys seem to understand that pretty well. The SSA has a webinar coming up on March 22nd on how to use collision avoidance technology.
Nice.
So you can sign up for that from 7 to 10 Mountain Daylight Time. What time are we on here?
Central.
Texas Daylight Time? Okay.
Hold on. Oh, okay.
Okay.
What's the date and time on that?
March 22nd, 7 p.m. Mountain Daylight Time.
So that'd be 8 o'clock.
Okay. So, but if you go on the SSA website, which is being updated, by the way, because people hate it, you can find it on there in their webinars, and it should be pretty good. So I'd highly recommend that. Okay. So where are you going to counter high threat glider traffic? Thermals, yes. Okay, so thermaling, again, we're tying in this idea of the FAA of you're going to have high collision probabilities where you have the high traffic. So how do you enter a thermal? What's your threat in the thermal?
Collision.
Collision, yeah, okay. So how is that a threat? I'm following Ken around there, and I'm just following him, and I just got him eyeballed out there, and I'm just not taking...
The thermal from the outside. This
Oh, some goofball's coming in?
Yep.
Okay, so how do you deal with that?
Look.
You always got to be looking
at the outside.
Okay.
Outside the circle.
So I'm not going to hit you because I'm looking at you. So what am I not doing? You're not looking for other traffic. Can I keep you in my peripheral vision and still not hit you?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. So yeah, so still scan around for other gliders. It might be two, look for a third. Make sure you look around in all directions. If I'm in a left-hand turn, where's my biggest threat?
To the right.
Right hand turn.
But I've got that nice big wing right here. Is that an issue?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So where should I be looking for that traffic that might be coming from this way?
When you're in the...
Do I want to look out there? Do I want to look out here? Do I want to look out here?
It also helps announce on the radio sometimes. You did that for me one time when he left the thermal, because I didn't know he left, and he told me he was headed off to the north.
Okay, we'll get to that in just a second. So, but yeah, that's where your threats are. So entering a thermal, always assume there's another glider there. Is there another glider there? Which way do you turn in the thermal?
The same direction everybody else is turning.
Okay. So what if you don't see anybody? Which way do you turn?
Whichever way you think it is.
50-50 chance, right? Okay. Do you come bombing into the thermal at 100 knots and hit the good air and pull up? What? I see a lot of heads nodding out there going, yeah, that's the way to do it. Okay, it depends? What do you mean?
If I'm out and I know I'm by myself and I don't see anybody in the thermal, I will try to use it to my advantage.
Okay.
But that means you have to be watching.
Okay. What if you see somebody over you and you come bombing into the thermal? Can you pull up into them?
It's amazing how much
you can gain.
You will gain. Trust me on this.
Okay. So yeah, you want to be aware that that threat is out there. Clear your turns. When you start your turn, make sure there's no one there. Glancing at your 1 o'clock does not count as a clearing turn. How do you clear the area?
360-degree turn.
Well, I'm going into a thermal, so I'm going to make lots of 360. So how do I clear the area before I turn? Yeah, you scan. Look over. I'm going to be turning over there. I'm taking a good look at what's over there, what's up there. Okay? Take your time before you get bombing into it. Okay? Press on. Once you're established in the thermal, continue to look around for traffic. Okay? What is, you're established in the thermal, what's your biggest threat?
Somebody coming into it from the outside.
Somebody coming in from the outside, yeah. Okay, you can easily become the victim. Okay? And you see that person coming along and you see they got a lot of smash on the glider and they're 200 feet below you. What do you think they're going to do?
Pull up.
Pull up into you, so be ready for that. When I'm out there, when I come back for the contest in August, which one of you are trying to kill me? Every one of you. Why, I don't know, but you're trying to kill me.
And you're trying to kill all of us.
That's right. Okay? So you're established in the thermal. So then how do you leave the thermal? I'm going out on course, and I'm over on this side of the thermal, so of course I overbank and I dive right through the center of the thermal, right? What do you mean no?
That used to be the way to do it for efficiency, but it is not.
No, as you come around on the course line, you roll out.
So you come around to tangential to your course line and then go?
Yes.
Okay. Do we all agree with that?
Yeah.
Nod our heads, yes. Okay.
You're still clear to the outside.
You're still clear to the outside, okay? Yeah. And once you get going, what are the other people might do? I'm following Ken. I see Ken take off. What do I do?
The same thing.
I take off after him, right? Because I don't know what I'm doing, okay? Okay, but again, the idea of getting on the far side of the thermal, overbanking and bombing through the center, if you really look at the numbers, it's not going to gain you that much. It's actually very little as opposed to staying in the lift on the outside and then, can you accelerate as you're in that turn? Yeah. Sure you can. Use the lift there and you actually spend more time in the lift than if you overbank and go bombing through the center.
On the thermal entering, I don't know if you mentioned this, but in entering the thermal, if you see other gliders there, slow up and come in from the outside and merge.
Don't come straight towards the thermal.
Which you don't want to do.
Some of you made me very nervous doing that.
Okay.
Stop it.
So what does your FLARM do really well if you're out on a task with thermals?
Shows you where the other gliders are.
Shows you where the other gliders are. If I can see where the other gliders, can you see where the other gliders are?
Should be able to.
You should be able to. So where are you both headed?
Same point.
The same point in the sky. Okay, so watch out for that. If you see other gliders thermaling around there, that's great. I know where the thermal is, but be careful because there's going to be other people coming there also. Okay, cool. So look outside. You two, you're going to talk about that. But do you ever see the aircraft that hits you?
Yeah.
If you saw it, you would do something, right?
Not soon enough.
Okay. Always assume the other glider's out there, and FLARM is just another set of eyes. Okay. Know how to use it. Okay. Beware of going belly up in the turn. What does the term belly up mean?
It means you turned inside the other glider, you showed its belly, your belly to it.
Yeah, can you see it?
No.
No, you can't. Okay, so that glider's in a nice 2 meter or 2 knot thermal there, nice and slow, climbing. They're at 1,100 feet, 1,200 feet. Okay, so you can take whatever you want out of that, but you can't see anything off to the left there. Okay, so finally in the pattern, where's the collision hazard?
Probably based on.
Going into downwind.
Okay, base to final. How would you know that it's out there? Should you be overtaking it? Okay, yeah. How much faster do you have to be to visibly see that you're overtaking the other aircraft? Yeah. I'm in my duo, I'm following the 233. What's the approach speed of the 233?
55.
55, so that's 50 knots, right? How fast am I going in my duo?
55.
55 to 60. So that's a 10 knot overtake. Okay? That's going to take an awful long time to go around that glider and get ahead of it. You know? So what can I do at that point if I'm the overtaking aircraft?
Get to the outside.
Slow down, yes, turn.
Slow down, dust turn.
Yeah, slow down a little bit. I'm in a machine that can do 44 to 1 as opposed to one that does 23 to 1 advertised. Okay, do I have more options? Sure you do. Use those to your advantage. Okay? But yeah, look around your operation here, find out where the potential collision points are, and go from there. Okay? Cool. So this comes out of the FAA advisory circular on how to fly traffic patterns. And what the FAA says is the glider should be on one side and the power traffic should be on the other, just like you're doing. But they do not take in, this advisory circular did not talk to the collision avoidance advisory circular because you're setting up a potential collision where you're both turning final. Okay? Unless, of course, the runways are 1,500 feet apart, then you can do parallel runway operations, right?
For instrument approaches.
For instrument approaches, sure. Okay, but that's the FAA guidance. And it's the bottom of the hour. Do you have to get your passengers involved in the briefings?
Yes.
Yes. Sure you do. It's a requirement. Okay? You have to do it. Okay? And the FAA came out with this briefing in 2007. And you're not only supposed to talk to them about the emergency evacuation plan, where the emergency equipment is located, but on traffic scanning and sterile cockpit. You should be talking to your passengers when you do that. And anyway, I won't talk about the CAP. And that's it. It's bottom of the hour. Kevin, back to you. Any questions, comments, criticisms?
Just one comment. For flying here, one of the higher collision risk areas, if you're thermaling right over Highway 290 or over I-10, because there's a lot of traffic that goes right up and down that highway.
IFR traffic.
They're not looking. That's right. So watch out if you're, watch out down there. So.
And the business jets going into West Houston near Fairweather.
Yeah.
They're not looking.
Okay, back to you, sir.
It's a shame we can't see the magenta line between
Yeah.
because that's where they're going.
Yep.
All right, Tom, you talk fast.
Sorry
I
about
mean,
that.
you just scrunched. No, that was good. He scrunched 3 hours worth of talking in an hour and a half. Okay, so I and Glenn had a midair about 3 miles south of here at 3,000 feet. And Eduardo says to me, "You're the first one we've had. This club is 49 years old, and I've been flying for 40 years, and I've never hit an airplane. Does that mean that I won't hit an airplane tomorrow?"
No.
No. Which is why we're spending some time covering this stuff in our thoughts. So Glenn, I'm going to go through my deal. If you want to add stuff. All right. The part you guys probably want to know is what happened. I was going east in about a 30-degree bank, and Glenn was coming west in about a 30-degree right turn, both of us in a right turn, and my wingtip hit his wing right there.
Wow.
So, I don't know, 30 feet between fuselage and fuselage. Okay, so I started off right here. There was 5 of us flying. Zach, Ken, Tony, Glenn, and I. I self-launched after everybody left. Zach came back in, landed. That's now 4. Tony and Ken, you think they were sticking around here with a decent day to fly? Gone, right? They're going on their 300Ks. So it's Glenn and I. So I see Glenn, and I kind of went up under him and climbed. And then Glenn left the thermal, and he went to the north. And we drift. There's about a 50-knot wind. We drift to the north. I start coming back to the south. I can't really figure it out, so I get right here over the airport, about 1,800 feet. I start climbing again. I climb up to 3,000. And as I'm getting, okay, so glints on gliders. You got to have sunlight hitting gliders. It was a pretty, there was pretty good cover, like 60 to 70% broken cloud cover. The light being kind of in the winter was it wasn't bright like in the summertime. It was a grayish type light. We were under these clouds. Okay, so that's the conditions. Both of us well under the cloud base, and good visibility. And as I'm getting to the top of my climb, I'm starting to look at the ground, and I'm starting to look at which street I want to go, and I'm looking this way to the south. And out of the corner of my eye, I see this other glider, like this. And it was one potato, and before you say two potato, bang. And unfortunately, my initial reaction when I saw, it takes 12 seconds to figure out what you're going to do. I can tell you that it takes about 1 second for your, the lion's going to eat me, do something to take place. And mine was this. And when I did that, I raised this wingtip up. TCAS doesn't tell you to go left or right. It tells you to go up, down. Because the glider is this big, but it's only that big. Any airplane's like that. So if you just change, if I would have done nothing, we would have missed. Now, it's a big flipping glider right there. I mean, it's like do nothing, you got to train your monkey brain to do nothing. All right. So that's that. We hit each other, and I forgot to say, thank goodness we're talking about it. Nobody got hurt. Glenn's glider's still gonna fly. Mine's gonna, I don't know. It's gonna be a while before I get it flying. All right. So I have transponder and power alarm. He has ADS-B out and a transponder. I did not get a FLARM alert. And remember about him talking about how know your equipment, know how to set it up? I haven't got something set up right. And I don't know what it is yet, but I'm gonna find out. Mark Zivley,
What?
maybe you can help me. I need somebody to help me go through setting my LX9070 up and getting the right firmware. I think I've got a firmware issue, but figure out how to make sure your stuff's updated and figure out how to set it so that it gives you good alerts. Alerts are not like he talked about for us to be looking inside. They're so that when you think you're the only person out there, which we kind of did. Glenn and I have kind of said, this was not a contest. There wasn't a bunch of gliders up. It was just he and I, and we kind of knew we were here, but we wound up meeting together. It's about the equipment going deep, deep, deep. Some visual indication. I've got trifocals. I'm not going to look to see exactly where he is. All I want is something to say, hey, there's something getting close. Look out. And so that's one mitigating thing. Know your equipment. 2, I have a flasher. It was sitting in the trunk of my car because I just now got it. I was going to install it. So there's another one. Flashers are good. Having FLARM on all ships, I think, is a good idea. Although Flarman picks up a DSB, I should have picked him up. I did have a target. It was about that big, but I didn't have the circle and the color and the, okay. Seeing and avoiding. When you're thermaling, we obviously fail to see and avoid each other. I mean, it's, you know, did we wake up in the morning and go, today I'm ignoring everything? No, we just freaking are humans, and it happened. So how do we stop? How do we improve? Ken said something about do something, you know, early, but picking up traffic. What I've decided is I'm going to go back to, which I had been doing, looking in every quadrant of the turn. So it's about scanning, and this, you know, this environment is changing and things are happening. So moving around your attention is important. So mine is going to be try to look out for traffic in every quadrant of the turn. And oh, by the way, you guys have suggestions, you guys have techniques, please share them. So that's one. Seeing and avoid, look in every quadrant of the turn. The light is changing. There's a whole bunch of stuff that's changing. The glider's getting closer. I made a whole bunch of turns going this way. He was meandering and he made a turn. So we both had opportunities to see each other. We just didn't. The light was gray, blah, blah, blah. No shiny, glittery. Okay. Let's see. See and avoid. Make sure your equipment's, you understand your equipment. With one more thing. That's it. That's what I got.
And after, what was your thinking after you hit, and you think of how you accessed the airplane was flying still, and nothing was super, you know, how you managed your panic?
Yeah. No, there was no panic. I don't know why. I will tell you that I was last night, and probably because I was stressed out about this meeting, but I was starting to go, Kevin, you really suck. And Kevin, you really suck is coming from, you know, little voices in the back of your head of what you're talking about. But when it happened, I didn't think about anything but fly the airplane. So, well, that's not true. So fly the airplane was flying. My next thought was, I clicked the mic and I said, I hit somebody, are you okay? I didn't hear a response. And I started to turn back to the north to see if I could see the other glider. And then I looked to my left, and my winglet normally sits up about 6 inches, but now it was sitting about 1.5 feet because the top skin of the wing folded up about 1.5, 2 feet up. The bottom skin stayed put. There was no flutter of the skin. It was just sitting up there like a big 737 winglet. And so I said to myself, no, Dodo, the airplane's busted. Let's make sure we can get back to the field. So then I went through controllability. I slowed down a little bit, nothing happened, sped up a little bit, took some flaps out, nothing happened weird. Put flaps back in, nothing happened weird. Take the spoilers out, nothing happened, put them back in. I went through that. And then as I was doing that, Glenn called and he said, you hit me. 14 will pop and you hit me. And then my first thought was, did I hit you or did you hit me? But actually, he never saw me, so I knew that you know, I hit him. So, and then we just both said we're going back to the field, and we kept each other. He could see me, he was behind me, and I extended out a little bit, and he turned a little shorter, and we kept each other in sight and talking to each other, and both landed, both got back. The airplanes are back in the hangars. You know, I'm just glad he's okay. Yeah. And so that was that. No panic. I think that if I would have, you know, what do you do if you, I wanted to get Marcelo out here to talk about bailing out of it. And we're going to work on maybe having some kind of a thing that you can watch online. I'm still working on that. But right? If the airplane all of a sudden starts shaking like immeasurably, but then the shaking doesn't go away, the airplane starts rolling like crazy, right? You lose control of the airplane, then you're gonna do. Mine has a full ship parachute. And just reach up and grab a handle and pull it. And rocket's supposed to deploy the parachute. I have been around guys that have had accidents, and normally during the events, people are not panicking. It's after the event, at some point, that there's PTSD, and you start, shaking and so anyways, that's the deal. But anything you want to add?
No.
I wish you would.
Well.
Yeah.
I would agree with Kevin. It was, from a visibility standpoint, it was about a 7 out of 10 day. Looking at our traces, I think we had maybe 4 or 5 seconds at some point where we were nose on that we might have seen each other. I never saw Kevin until we hit. I have thought about what I would do, and it was interesting when you talked about TCAS. I think our normal reaction would be to turn, and the interesting thing is that if I had seen him at the last minute here now, I would have yanked back on my stick to go up. We're doing 55 knots. I have a lot of flexibility before I really get into trouble. But it is interesting to think that his normal reaction was to turn. Mine probably would have been to turn. If I get into this situation again, which I hope I don't, my reaction is going to be, depending on where I am, go straight down or straight up. After we hit, I did a controllability check, and I will admit I had 5 seconds and said, shit, that was a good thermal, let me go back to it. and then common sense said, no, you need to go back and check on Kevin, and you just need to land, and the whole process after that was normal. But again, I did not see Kevin. What I did do, I did fly the plane 10 days ago. I have significantly changed how hard I look. I will admit I was probably complacent. I was looking towards the next cloud, because at that point the day had gotten really good. I'm not as good as Ken and Tony, they just go out. But the day was getting good, and I had all intentions of going south and saying, hey, this is really good. So I will admit to being somewhat complacent. You're right, there weren't a lot of airplanes in the air that day. But when I flew 10 days ago, I have significantly increased where I'm looking and how I'm looking. So.
All right. Did you order your flarm yet? Did you order your flarm yet?
I need to talk to your brother. Ken and I have mounted a flarm on a piece of aluminum, and I need to get the electric sorted out.
All right.
If I could just say,
yes.
Just a couple of words about their midair. We had 2 very good, very experienced pilots. And so this is a real wake-up call for all of us. I think that the tendency for us to focus, I think, there's probably a tendency to focus on the clouds. You're looking for lift.
Mm-hmm.
There was a tendency when we're thermaling to focus on the glider, instruments, head in the cockpit maybe, you look where you're going. So this is understandable, but it's a real wake-up call. I mean, if this had happened with a couple of very inexperienced pilots, you'd say, they just screwed up. But, so we all need to really pay attention to this and really step up our scanning, I think.
Yeah. Thanks, Ken.
So I just have one more. You both had collision avoidance equipment in your plane. Was it that you ignored it? It wasn't giving you the indication that you thought, you're compliant, that's what I'm trying to understand.
Okay,
I got
so
in the plane and it didn't work.
I had Flarm, he did not.
Right.
He has ADSB out, which I can see, but he cannot see Flarm aircraft. Okay, so he does not have collision avoidance equipment. He does for ADSB traffic and other transponder. My Flarm, I have something going on where it did not give me oral alerts and visual changes, which it can do for ADSB out. If he would have had Flarm, I would have gotten an alert. But I should get an alert.
Which is probably the highest risk here is colliding with another glider, right?
It is, however, we have enough
Well, I mean,
traffic.
other than the planes that like to fly overhead,
Right.
the gliders are the ones that are going to tend, because of thermally, because of the
Yeah.
nature of our
Yeah.
sport. I'm just asking the question because I
Yeah.
don't,
No,
I don't know.
the close calls I've had have all been powered aircraft
Yeah.
plowing through the sky.
Yeah, you would think that, but my experience has been other powered aircraft.
Yep.
There are configuration settings in these instruments, and it may be that Kevin's, if he's new to the glider still, it may be that there were some configuration settings that were not set up to show ADSB.
So it's these powered aircraft that keep cutting across, you know.
Well, okay.
But I think
Okay.
one of my conclusions about what you're saying is that no matter how much technology you have, there's no substitute to visual.
Yes.
Yeah, these things are helpers. They're things that help mitigate the risk, but they're not the solution. Glenn, you were going to say something.
Well, no, I was just going to comment that I had ADSB, and your statement might be true here locally, but once you get out of the local area and you fly south,
That's why you have.
the biggest problem is all of the power traffic.
So
Once
for
we get south
cross-country,
of 290.
cross-country,
Yeah.
I totally understand.
Okay, so for the any other questions or comments before we break? Because I know folks are wanting to get out. So, do we have anything else? We're going to, it was recorded, we're going to try to post this. From the standpoint of the safety, I would like for all of you that are here to send me an email that you attended. I don't have a sign-up sheet. What I'd like is, and I would like to kind of incorporate a system where if you watch a safety video or you watch something safety related or read something safety related, send it to me and we will distribute these things. I think it's there's a ton of resources out there, and it's a lot better for 100 of us to be contributing to the safety than me just looking around and sending stuff. I have a job, I have a family, I'm busy, so are you. But collectively, we can do a lot together.